From birth to 20. That seemed like it took a long time, didn't it? I mean, there's a lot going on in there from birth to 20. Learning to walk, learning to do it without diapers. Preschool, elementary school, learning to ride a bike, learning to climb a tree, falling out of trees. Teeth coming in, teeth falling out, teeth coming back in again. Middle school, high school, learning to drive, first job, first drink, first hangover. Learning to date, learning to get your heart broke, learning how to break a heart, college, and 1,000 other things crammed into those first 20 years. It seemed like a lifetime, didn't it? As compared to the first 20 years I just spent at the Drive. You know the old adage, time flies when you're having fun? It's true. Although year 19 was kind of weird. Anyway, how can it be the Drive is 20 years old? 20 years ago, January of 2001, I was licking my wounds as it was following my dismissal from CD 94.7, Chicago's classic rock station. I've been doing middays and rock and roll roots for 3.5 years at the corner of State and Lake when, late one November afternoon in 2000, the program director walked into the studio where I'd been taping the next Rock and Roll Roots show. He said, "Bob, we're changing formats, and your services are no longer needed. Thank you very much." Really? Okay, well, what's the new format? We're doing an 80s format. And you don't think I can do an 80s format? It wouldn't be a good fit, was his answer, and I was shown the door. So after about 6 weeks of wondering where I was going to end up waiting tables, nothing wrong with that, a very noble profession and a lot of free food, I got a call from Chicago's Finest Rock suggesting I drive out to Belmont Avenue, where their studios were at the time, and do rock and roll roots on the weekends. So for the next 5 Wednesday nights, I drove out to Belmont Avenue, taped roots for weekend airings. My foot was in the door, but not for long. As the radio landscape in Chicago shook mightily when classical music station WNIB sold its 2 signals, 97.1 and 96.9, to Bonneville Broadcasting. This classical music giant had been on Chicago airwaves for 45 years. Immediately, Bonneville started what we call in the business stunting. It's what radio stations do when they don't want to show their hand, but they want you to listen. So one day they'll play nothing but country music. The next day it'll be all Broadway show tunes. When was the last time you heard Ethel Merman on the radio? Followed by comedy albums. Then the 4th day, 80s hair metal. They'll do this for at least a week to keep you guessing as to what the format will eventually be. In the meantime, I received a call from Bonneville. They wanted to talk to me about a possible job opportunity. I was sworn to secrecy as to what they were up to. Turns out what they were up to was right in my wheelhouse. A hybrid classic rock station that would not necessarily compete with another one of their radio stations in town, The Loop. They wanted to install me into my familiar spot middays and air rock and roll roots on the weekend. So I did 2 more Wednesday night tapings of rock and roll roots at Chicago's Finest Rock, and then signed on the dotted line with Bonneville. The Drive would be my 8th radio station here in Chicago. So I was more than familiar with how the business worked. I might get really lucky and have a 10-year run, like I did at the Loop. Or it might be a very abbreviated stay of 1.5 years, only to be fired during my air shift, which was my experience at 105.9 WCKG. In my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined that the Drive and myself would be celebrating 20 years together here in 2021. Hence my original thought at the top of this thought process about how these 20 years have flown by. It's really been a very special life experience for me because the Drive, year in, year out, has been a very special radio station. I have worked with some of the cream of the crop on-air talent, and people behind the scenes are nothing but the best. We've all been so fortunate to have been owned by the two best radio companies in the business, Bonneville and currently Hubbard Broadcasting. From day one, The Drive has been a station that's had a very close relationship with you, our audience. That's because we all share a very deep love of the music. Together we've gone through some really good times and some very difficult times. 9/11 and COVID. I can't tell you how much we miss being with you in person, but we hope to return to that at some point this year. It's been 20 years of keeping the music front and center, always with you in mind, and letting you be a part of the programming brain trust here and there. I don't mind telling you that we're pretty proud of the fact that we're hitting a 20-year milestone this year, and from day one you have made that all possible.